welcome back to Queer Cosplayers Family Kitchen. It is now April, and I am so excited to share this with all of you. We are going to be exploring probably one of the very first fandoms that I ever became obsessed about, and it is Who You Gonna Call month. That is right, sweeties. All month long, our recipes are going to be devoted to none other than the Ghostbusters. All thanks to the Ghostbusters official cookbook with recipes by none other than Jen Fujikawa herself and written by Eric Burnham. So, to get started, we are going to be making a recipe that's actually dedicated to Ghostbusters Afterlife, movie that I absolutely love. I thought seeing that was akin to getting to see the original Ghostbusters on screen in 1984, and we are going to be making a Spinner's Seismic Burger. So, without further ado, let's get to it! Alright, sweeties, so we are going to get started by making the sauce that is going to go on this Seismic Burger. So we are going to start out, I'm actually going to be making a double recipe of this. So we are going to start out with, let's see, it'll be 4 tablespoons of mayo. There is 1. 2. 3. And 4. There we go. Cover this back up. Then we are going to be, adding 4 teaspoons of relish. Now this is an interesting thing for me to add because I don't know if I've ever told you, sweeties, but I tend to have kind of a complicated relationship with pickles, where I absolutely love the taste of pickles, but I cannot stand the texture of them. It just, really kind of sets me off. So next, we are going to be doing 4 teaspoons of ketchup. There we go. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Get that closed up. Okay, next we are going to be adding a 1/2 teaspoon of light brown sugar. Let's see here. 1/2 teaspoon. Add that in. And then, let's see, a 1/4 teaspoon of white pepper. That's what I've got right here. There we go. Seal this up. Then we are just going to give this a pretty good stir, and then just refrigerate it until we are ready to use it. Alright, sweeties, so our special sauce is in the fridge. Now it is time to assemble our burgers. The recipe calls for about 1.5 pounds of ground beef, but in our house we tend to package and freeze our ground beef in 1 pound increments. So I'm just gonna go with a pound here. But we also have some seasonings that we are going to need to add. You need to add 1 clove of minced garlic. I currently do not have any whole cloves of garlic in the house, so I've got a little bottle of minced garlic right here that we are just going to estimate on that. We are also going to add a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. Ingredient that's always fun to try and pronounce. There we go. And next up is a teaspoon of dried basil. Let's see, teaspoon, there we go. Teaspoon of dried basil. And a teaspoon of onion powder. There we go. And let's see, half a teaspoon of paprika. Half a teaspoon. Okay, this is getting a little low, so we're just going to do it this way. There we go. A half a teaspoon of salt. Oh, wrapper from the salt went in. Half a teaspoon of salt. Then half a teaspoon of black pepper. There we go. Then, using your hands, we're just going to want to kind of get in there and kind of mix this all together until it's nice and combined. Then we're going to divide it into 4 separate patties. Cut. Alright, sweetie, so I've got my grill ready because there is nothing I like better than cooking burgers out on the grill. So, we've got it up to temperature, and generally you only need to cook these until your preferred doneness. So I usually do them for about 3 to 4 minutes on each side. So, let's toss these on. Alright, we are going to cover this up and then let these cook again for about 3 to 4 minutes, then flip. Action. Alright, sweetie, so our burgers are nice and done. Now we need to add the cheese. And for both of these, we are going to do 2 slices of American cheese. There we go. Then we are also going to do 2 slices of Swiss cheese. Then want to keep those on just until the cheese is nice and melted. There we go. And one more. So again, keep that on for just a minute or 2 until the cheese is nice and gooey. Action. Alright, sweeties, these turned out very well. So now it is time to assemble our Spinner's Seismic burger. So we are going to start out with the bottom of the bun, And we are going to place a cheddar patty right there. And we are then going to follow it up with a Swiss patty. And once again, kind of repeat that process like so. There we go. Now we are going to take some of our homemade sauce, put that on there just like that. Then you can also top it with the traditional lettuce, tomato, onion, so on and so forth. My wife and I generally don't top our burgers with those, so we are just going to go with the bun. Then, to make sure everything stays up so it is nice and presentable, we are going to take a wooden skewer and put it through like so. Alright, sweeties, this turned out fantastically. It was a phenomenal way, I think, to kick off Who You Gonna Call month, and I cannot wait to explore all of these other recipes from Jen Fujikawa. Thank you so much for making this and letting us experience one of my favorite fandoms of my life. So, thank you so much for tuning in, sweeties. Bye!